Gander's Unexpected Odyssey. Chapter 1, Into the Blue. The hum of the engines was a comforting lullaby that morning, a constant reminder that we were high above the Atlantic, on a path that thousands had traveled before. I was in the cockpit of an American Airlines flight, surrounded by the familiar sights and sounds of the aircraft I had come to know so well. My name is Beverly Bass, a captain, and I had the honor of being American Airlines' first female captain, a milestone that felt less like a personal achievement and more of a step forward for many. But this flight, on September 11, 2001, would etch itself into my memory, not for its routine, but for the chaos that would soon unfold. The sky stretched out like an endless canvas, the sharp line of the horizon miles below. It felt peaceful, insulated from the humdrum of the world. Yet somewhere far beneath that tranquil blue, the world was shifting in ways I could scarcely imagine. As we crossed the ocean at cruising altitude, a crackle broke the reverie. The voice on the radio was urgent, a clear indicator that this was no ordinary transmission. Attention all aircraft, the United States airspace is closing down. Repeat, all U.S. airspace is closing. Immediate orders to divert. Await further instructions. A directive of such gravity was unheard of, and its implications hung heavy in the air of the cockpit. My co-pilot, navigating, and I exchanged a glance filled with unspoken questions. In those few seconds of silence, I could feel the weight of responsibility settle onto my shoulders. A familiar weight, yet somehow heavier now. What was happening back home? The question sat heavy, unasked, as we began the process of rerouting. Gander International Airport in Newfoundland became our beacon, a dot on the map that would serve as a refuge, even though my familiarity with it was merely cursory. Protocol kicked in, the routine of flying providing a structure to fall back on in the face of the unknown. American Airlines Flight 49, diverting to Gander. Advise, I communicated back, my voice steady against the storm of thoughts whipping through my mind. The descent into Gander was a mixture of trepidation and relief. Relief, for we would soon be on the ground, safe from whatever unseen chaos inhabited our home skies. The moment our wheels touched the runway, a new reality anchored its weight. As the aircraft came to a halt, an air of uncertainty hung over everything. The runway itself was a maze of metal, other planes that had been sent to the same refuge we had found. Crew and passengers alike were thrust into a reality that demanded resilience and presence of mind. Yet little did we know, those next days would reveal the strength found in human connection amid distress. Chapter 2, The Arrival in Gander. Upon landing, the enormity of the situation slowly unveiled itself. Gander was not just another airport, it was a haven for stranded souls, 7,000 to be exact. Vehicles lined the tarmac, and planes from various countries dotted the landscape like giant birds seeking refuge. Here we stood, a collective ark of sorts, filled with a tapestry of human experiences and emotions, all deposited unceremoniously onto an unsuspecting island. Exiting the aircraft, I felt the cool air of Newfoundland, a breeze tinged with something unfamiliar to me at that moment, a shared trepidation, and unexpectedly warmth. The people of Gander and the surrounding communities had mobilized quickly, extending their arms to encompass us in a cocoon of unexpected compassion. As a captain, Isaac was accustomed to holding it together, to leading with assurance and precision. Yet here, on this unexpected odyssey, it was not just my skills that were called upon, but the very essence of who we were as people. In the thriving chaos, a quiet order began to form. Schools, churches, and community centers were transformed into shelters. Strangers became temporary family, bonded over shared meals and the universality of uncertainty. I couldn't help but be moved by the kindness that burgeoned from this adversity. My crew, too, though shaken, found solace in helping calm passengers, reassuring them as we all collectively grasped at the threads of news trickling in. Through a series of impromptu meetings with other captains, we shared plans, questions, and updates. A brotherhood and sisterhood of aviators, trying to make sense of the skies we once commanded with confidence, now shrouded in a veil of doubt. In one of those meetings, an elderly captain, his face lined with years of experience, looked around and simply said, "What matters now is taking care of our people and each other. We're in this together." It was in this shared purpose I came to understand our real task over the ensuing days. to embody resilience, and to help foster the spirit of unity that the town of Gander had so graciously extended to us. Chapter 3: Strangers Become Neighbors. The morning light in Gander was gentle, a softening balm that diffused through the makeshift accommodations. The school gymnasium where many of my passengers and I found shelter was filled with cots and the whispered exchanges of people from every corner of the world. The air was thick with a mix of anticipation and camaraderie. Out in the community, locals bustled with activity. I was humbled and heartened to see food prepared endlessly, clothing donated generously, and kind words shared between strangers who, in another reality, might never have crossed paths. These Newfoundlanders were showing us a heart bigger than their little island, and it left an indelible mark on my soul. One day, a young woman approached me. Her name was Eliza, a local teacher who had volunteered to help at the school. Her presence was calming. She had a warmth that radiated with every reassuring word she offered our displaced group. "You folks must be wondering why all this," she said with a soft laugh, gesturing to the buzzing, makeshift community around us. "In times like these, what else can we do but treat each other like family?" Eliza was right, and it was this simple wisdom that seemed to underline every interaction I witnessed. In the face of unimaginable events, we were learning to redefine what it meant to be neighbors, to be human. Even as the news from home began to sketch the grim events we had narrowly avoided, our small world in Gander breathed differently. The anxieties of thousands were met with an overwhelming force of good, driving home the realization that no matter the darkness, there will always be light kindled by human kindness. Chapter 4: Days of Connection. As the days in Gander stretched on, the initial shock settled into a state of patient waiting, waiting for word from the world we had left behind, for the skies to open up again, for life to resume what normalcy could be reclaimed. Yet for all the inconvenience, those days became an unexpected blessing. Bonds began to form among my passengers that would not have occurred on any conventional flight. From shared stories over the communal meals, or simply lending a listening ear, the rhythms of life in Gander carved new paths within each of us. One particular encounter stayed with me, a conversation with an elderly French woman named Colette. We sat together in a corner of the gymnasium over cups of warming tea. Her English was broken, but the warmth in her eyes needed no translation. "Il est important de se souvenir que nous sommes tous connectés," she said softly. "It is important to remember we are all connected." Her words resonated deeply, echoing what I was witnessing all around me. Each story shared, each small kindness given and received, wove an intricate tapestry of solidarity, a testament that despite our varied backgrounds, we held an undeniable kinship. In many ways, Gander became a microcosm of what the world could be, a place where compassion and community transcended everything else. Chapter 5: The Journey Continues. As the days wore on, whispers of when we might depart from this unexpected sojourn began to mingle with the noise of daily life in Gander's temporary community. There was a bittersweet quality to these conversations. Though many longed to return home, there was also a reluctance to leave this cocoon of humanity where every interaction had profound meaning. Then, like clouds parting, word came. The skies were on the brink of reopening. The news was met with a mixture of relief and nostalgia for this place that had transformed us all. Preparations began anew, this time for departure. On the morning we prepared to leave, I found myself outside the gym, watching the scene that had become so familiar, the ebb and flow of people, the exchange of hugs between locals and their transient charges whom they had come to consider friends. Eliza found me amidst the quiet chaos. "Ready to get back to the real world?" she asked with a wry smile, though I knew she too felt the gravity of this moment. "Ready as I'll ever be," I replied, wishing I could articulate my gratitude for everything they had given us. As the flight finally lifted off from Gander's runways, the view from above was different. Below us, the community of Gander was receding, a small patch on the earth, yet in my heart it glowed brightly, a beacon of the goodness found even in the darkest of times. Chapter 6: Reflections from Above. The flight back to the United States carried a hushed weight of reflection. As our wheels touched down, I felt different, as if the person who had entered the cockpit days earlier had undergone a transformation amidst the chaos and camaraderie. Back on familiar ground, a flood of emotions tied me to those days in Gander. The world we returned to was altered, shaped by the shadows of what had transpired on September 11th. Yet, within that upheaval, a profound realization unfurled, a testament to the power of community and the unyielding spirit of humanity. In the ensuing days, as I resumed flights and stood before different groups recounting our tale from the skies, I found myself often returning to the essence of what those days in Gander had revealed. It wasn't just a story of planes on runways, nor merely an account of displacement. Rather, it was a narrative drawn from the generous folds of human decency. A postcard arrived some weeks later, adorned with Newfoundland's rugged cliffs and jagged coastline, filled with words of warmth and hope from Eliza. Her closing line stayed with me. "Remember, Captain, wherever you fly, kindness reaches beyond any horizon." Chapter 7, A New Course. Navigating the skies in the months and years that followed, I carried with me the lessons learned in Gander. In it, with the cockpit's solitude, as I traced the invisible paths across the hemispheres, I felt buoyed not only by the engine's power, but by the human spirit encountered there. Conversations with strangers now held a lingering sweetness born from those days, with connections deepened, even in passing. Sharing the story with each new crew, with passengers curious about the ribbon of humanity stretching from Gander to the globe, brought fresh gratitude. No flight ever felt ordinary. Instead, it was each journey, a chance to bring people together, a bridge across distances, and every destination held a promise familiar since Gander. As time flowed onward and life offered myriad paths, each flight remained marked with a silent pledge to honor the spirit of Gander's testament. I found solace in their resilience, their hospitality, in the reminder that underneath layers of complexity, what binds us is profound yet beautifully simple: kindness. When I retired from flying, leaving behind the skies that had shaped much of who I'd become, this chapter still shone brightly. Its end was not a farewell, but a continuity, propagated through stories told and retold, through lives touched along the way. To return to Gander years later was to rekindle a spark, crossing familiar paths, reconnecting faces and places that became woven into my life's fabric, sharing meals, laughter, and tears, as if time hadn't threaded between us, was a testament to enduring connections and the passage of growth within every shared moment. Epilogue, a tale we all share. Gander's unexpected Odyssey is more than mere memory. It's an eulogy for the compassion experienced amidst tragedy, a beacon for future generations. Each recount becomes a seed of empathy, planting the potential for kindness to flourish in hearts and communities worldwide. Today, as I reflect upon those pivotal days, it remains clear, regardless of where the horizon falls or the world changes, the lasting legacy of Gander speaks of unity and shared humanity, a compass guiding us through uncertainty to find strength in each other. And though the story began with diverted flights and unforeseen landings, its message soars beyond us still, a reminder that when faced with the extraordinary, the most profound response lies in the simple marvel of the human connection.